Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Gbemi, and for I just figured out probably it was yesterday when I was recording a different video, and I was just thinking that yeah, I talk about all the time me being a PhD student, and I haven't really I don't have like a video talking about like what it entails, why I decided to come do my PhD here in the US. I am Nigerian, and I came to the US for my PhD in 2023. So I was like, oh, that's true. I've not actually like talked about why I decided to come to do my PhD and what my PhD is all about, or like how I came about this whole PhD thing and like my topic and things like that, and what's the PhD program actually entails. So I think I'm going to give you like a brief recap about um, my journey so far before becoming a PhD student. Okay, so now that I intro it out of the way, this is so I did my bachelor's in Nigeria to study mechanical engineering, and again, let me justify my desire to study engineering. So when I was younger, I think about like probably 2 3 years old, my mom keeps telling I'm saying it because my mom keeps reminding me about this. So I know like I can remember what really happened when I was two. So when I was probably 2 or 3 years old, I was like watching this cartoon, and in a way I faintly remember this cartoon. So it does. I don't know the name of the cartoon precisely, but it's about like spaceships. So there are a lot of like spaceships and space shuttles and space things, and it was fascinating to me. I was like, oh, okay, like when I grow up, I want to be able to design things like this, like being able to go to space, being able to like build rockets, and yeah, just things like that. And I was singing it to my mom's ears apparently, and then so she said it was not a surprise when later on, like when I was in secondary school, what they call like high school here, that I said I wanted to be in the engineering field. So like how Nigeria is structured, or maybe I don't know, maybe it's I don't know whether it's general or like how my school was structured, is that when you get to your GS3 SS1, excuse me. So when I was in, I think probably like yeah, when you get to SS1, then you will you can choose like what direction you want to go to, whether you want to go to like the sciences, or you want to go to the arts, or you want to go into government. So we had those three options, so science, arts, and government were your options. So you're supposed to pick subjects based on your choice. So if you were going into government, oh sorry, it's not government, so it's science, arts, and commercial. Yeah, it was sounding somehow. So science, arts, commercial. So if you are choosing the arts, for example, you take courses like take subjects like literature and English in literature and things like that. If you're going to commercial, you take things like business studies and government and yeah, those things. And then if you're going to like sciences, then you take like biology and what else? And physics and courses like that. So that was how my school was structured. So when I got to GS3, I told my parents, that I wanted to do sciences. And we were like, okay, yeah, they expected it. So I went into the sciences. And now under sciences, we had two choices. So we had those that wanted to go into like the medical aspect of it, and then we had those that wanted to go into like the engineering side. So if you wanted to do the medical aspects, like not engineering, sciences, then you do courses like agric engineering. What were they doing again? And things like that, like agric engineering. I think that was the choice. Maybe either agric or technical drawing were like the two choices. So I chose technical drawing because I wanted to do engineering. So yeah, so since that time I was saying, oh, I wanted to study engineering. That was like 2 3 years before I even had to think about like WAEC or or NECO. So I no said engineering. Okay, so that was the plan. But I wanted to be an aerospace engineer. I wanted to study like aeronautical engineering or aerospace engineering. But at the time, this was like back in 2000 and what was that? 2013, 2012. So at that time, as far as I knew, the only school offering aerospace engineering at college level, like accredited at university level, was ABU, Amadu Bello. Was it Amadu Bello University? I guess so. It was a university in Zaria in northern Nigeria. So my mom was like, she doesn't want me to go that far because I grew up in the southwest part of Nigeria, in Ibadan. So my mom was like, she's not comfortable me going like that far. Plus, with the whole conflict of like what was happening in the north, like the killings, the lots of conflicts, and my mom was like, oh, she's not comfortable with me going there. I was not happy about it because I was like, I wanted to chase my dreams and everything, but she was like, okay, she's not comfortable. I said, okay, fine. If I can't study aerospace engineering, I think I was advised, I believe, someone advised me that, okay, maybe choose mechanical engineering instead, so that maybe later down the line I'll be able to specialize in aerospace engineering. So I was like, okay, yeah, sounds like a good plan. So I decided to shift focus to being a mechanical engineer, like study mechanical engineering. So I went to university or college to study mechanical engineering. So it was 5 years at that time. That was around the time I met my husband. So I studied mechanical engineering, graduated with the first class, and then I won't say that the flair for aerospace has left my mind, but like mechanical engineering has these vast options available, and you're not just my only option. Stopped being just aerospace engineering. So it was like, okay, so we have these other like interesting things that I could explore. So let me like think outside the box of what I can do, what I'm interested in. So during my IT, so like when you are in your fourth year in my school, where you study engineering, in your fourth year you do like an IT. So a whole, I think 6 months you go for internship. So my internship, I did my internship at AEA. I keep talking about it because it's really my experience. They actually shaped my future going forward, and like even up till now. And I'm always thankful for the mentor I had, Engineer Ikoto. Like I was under his mentorship, and he really impacted a lot into my life. And I would say the two, aside from maybe my mother, the two other strong people that have been pillars to me being in the engineering field were my mathematics teacher, Mr. Adewale in OBMS. He has left OBMS now. And also that was like my secondary school maths teacher. And also Engineer Ikoto, the person I did my internship under. So anyway, so while I was there, we did lots of things. So we did like programming, computer programming, and PLCs, and designing and everything. That was the time I learned to use Autodesk Inventor. I learned to program different PLCs, Siemens, Schneider PLCs, and Allen Bradley and Mitsubishi PLCs. Like it was a lot. So it was an intense 6 months for me, and it was a very intensive learning process for me. And also, that was the first time I came in contact with 3D printing. Just regular tabletop FDM, fused deposition modeling, printing, like the common ones that people know, like printing of plastics. So that was the first time I was in contact with a 3D printer, and I think that time, the first time I saw it, it was like, I think it had an issue. So we had to like troubleshoot to figure out what was going on, and almost like reverse manufacture the 3D printer. So I got like more intrigued. So by the time I came back for my final year in the university, that's my last year where you choose your project. So in my school, like my departments, they'll post a list of topics, and then you get to pick like what topic you are interested in, and then you have like your advisor or the faculty member that's going to be in charge of overseeing that project. So I saw the list, and then I saw something about like 3D printing. I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. So that was what I did, and I settled with developing a 3D printer, a binder jetting 3D printer. I don't want to really go too much into like the whole technical aspects of my research. So, but like I think that's all you need to do. So eventually I was able to design and build and fabricate this 3D printer, also with the help of engineer I got to at that time. So I had designed it, and then I would go to Ibadan to like fabricate it, and then I was going to Elisha or something to meet like some senior colleagues that were also like helping me out with the programming aspect of it. So it was an intensive project for me. Like I was traveling, I was leaving Ife to go to Elisha, I would leave Ife, go to Ibadan for this project. So it was fascinating, and also it was cost intensive, it was time intensive, it was brain intensive, but it was something I was proud of at the end. So that happened. The printer eventually did not print anything. It's something that maybe like down the line I want to like go back to probably work on, but at that time I just fabricated the printer. It was working, like the motion was working. I wasn't able to just print like a full ceramic part. So fast forward down the line, my husband and I had a startup to train engineering undergraduates. I don't want to go into the story because we've talked about it in a different episode. I'm going to link that. So that was when we started getting into talks about going for further studies, like going for your like a PhD. So I was thinking at that time, okay, I like engineering. It was fascinating to me to be able to see how things come together, how mathematics influence a lot of like design principles and everything. So I just wanted an in-depth understanding of it. That was like one of my primary motivations for coming to a PhD, of wanting to pursue like a higher level understanding or higher level study. So contrary to some beliefs that maybe people just get your PhD just to leave the country, like to leave Nigeria or to leave wherever you're from, to come to the US or go to the UK or go to Canada or something. For me, it was just like, okay, my love for mathematics, my love for creating something. That was the motivation for me. Obviously, there were other motivations too, but that was like the primary one. So, the whole process of applying to schools, I was like, okay, I applied to some schools. I remember I applied to University. Then I was thinking that, okay, if I don't do 3D printing and additive manufacturing, then let me also do aerospace engineering, since that was like the childhood dream for me. So I was applying for both like additive manufacturing and also, so additive manufacturing, 3D printing, same thing. So if I interchange the words, I'm just referring to the same thing. So I was applying to like programs in additive manufacturing and also programs in aerospace engineering. So eventually things worked out. I was able to get into UNL, and my husband was there ahead of me. So when I had a different offer from a different school, so then I had this offer, and I was like, it was almost like a no-brainer for me. Like my husband was already here. We were not married at the time, but like he was already here, and I was like, okay, let me just come here instead of going to the other place that I had admission to. So I came here spring of 2023. That was January. And my current advisor at that time, he also was a new faculty member. He just got his tenure track, I believe. So anyway, we're both coming together as fresh intake. So he was a new faculty member, I was a new PhD student. So now to talk about like what my current research is about. So my current research is about if you know additive manufacturing, there are different technologies under additive manufacturing, and binder jetting, like I mentioned that I did in my undergraduate project, is one of the technologies under additive manufacturing. Then we have FDM, which is like the most popular one, like what people know as 3D printing is FDM, fused deposition modeling. And then we have LPBF, or laser AM, so where we use lasers to process materials. We have other ones. We have fused lamination. There are not, I think there are like 9 technologies, I believe, under additive manufacturing. So, but the one I'm working on currently is LPBF, and that is laser powder bed fusion. So that's where we use laser energy to fuse metal powder. They use it with other things, but for my research primarily is for just metal powder. So that's what my research is currently about. So my first year, aside from like literature reviews and seeing what other people are doing, since it was a new field for me, even though like I'm familiar with AM additive manufacturing, I was not too familiar with the LPBF process. So I spent like a good amount of time trying to understand LPBF and everything it entails. So not just knowing high level things, I had to like go in depth into research to know what this whole field is about, its usefulness in the society, and intricate things like the materials used and the process parameters and things like that, and then to see a research gap that I wanted to explore. So we decided to go into the direction of blue LPBF. So blue laser powder bed fusion. So now I'm going to give a little lecture. So there's this graph that we have, this absorptivity wavelength graph. So if you're familiar with lasers, if you're familiar with light, visible light that we see has a spectrum. I feel like there's nothing nerdy about it, but I feel like I'm going to the nerdy part. So, but light has a spectrum. So visible light, the ones you can see, like the sunlight has a wavelength. Invisible light has a wavelength. X-rays have wavelengths, and infrared lights have wavelengths, and Bluetooth has wavelengths. So all these things have wavelengths. So, but for laser processing of metals, the common ones that I usually use are infrared lasers, that's IR lasers, or near IR lasers, actually, not exactly IR, but close to IR. And the wavelength is like 1080 nanometers, around that range. So that's what has been used commercially to process lasers. And then they found out that for specific materials like copper and aluminum, it's kind of more cost intensive and energy intensive to process these materials with IR lasers, because the absorptive. I'm going to put the graph. I'm going to put the chart there. The chart. So it's more. Copper doesn't absorb as much IR energy from IR lasers as much as it does from like lasers in the visible light range, with like blue lasers and green lasers, and yeah. So, and also aluminum, and I think those are the two major ones, and I think gold, I believe, yeah. So, but my primary focus at the moment is copper. Okay, so now fast forward. Now currently we're using blue lasers to process copper powders to make solid parts. So my first few months was more of literature review and also designing our system. So my first year up to my second year of my PhD program, it was literature review and building the system. So thank God the system is fully built now, and it's like a lab scale LPBF system that we use to process metals and to do like in situ monitoring of the LPBF process. So my first 2 years, that's what I was doing for the most part. I was even doing, we had a milling machine in the office, in the lab. So I was milling some parts, 3D printing some parts, and some parts I have to send to the machine shop, some parts we had to order. And yeah, so it was an intensive time for me. And it also let me come back. And something I really like to do, because I really love to design. I think that was another thing I wanted to do. Like if I think I mentioned that I wanted to be able to design planes and design aerospace aircraft. So it was like, it's still design. So I was like, okay, I really love to do design. But design is not a research. It's not something that people fund as research. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. So anyway, that's what I was doing for the first 2 years of my PhD program. And like towards the middle of my second year was the time I had my son. So I don't want to. It didn't set me back with my research, because if you work with hardware, you know that things happen. Sometimes the machine breaks down. Sometimes a part needs replacements. So you have to order things and everything. So anyway, aside from like building the system and having the system run smoothly or work, I was also working on in situ analysis. So I know for those that are in PhDs or or maybe you read papers, you see the word in situ, in situ, in situ, and it's like, okay. First time I saw it, I was like, oh, what's this big grammar, big PhD grammar? But essentially, it means like just seeing what's happening in real time. So in situ analysis for LPBF is to see like the sputter dynamics, to see the vapor plume, to see the melt pool, to see what else are we looking at? So just to see things like that. So we use different in situ tools. The top ones we use are high-speed videography. We use Schlieren imaging. So high-speed videography is to capture the sputters, to see the direction of the sputters, to see the volume of sputters being lost, and also the plume. We actually visualize the plume more with Schlieren imaging. And we use also thermal imaging to see like temperature in the melt pool and temperature in the environment and things like that. Yeah. I don't really want to go into like too many things with too many technical things. So, but like that's about it. So I was also working on the in-situ part, making sure that the system is compatible with different in-situ monitoring capacities. And so that's going into my third year. My third year was when I think I spent most of my third year doing like gas simulation. I think my second year. Yeah, I think my second year. I did like some fluid simulation of like what is going on in the chamber, how the flow through different nozzles was going to affect the dispersion of the powder, and yeah, they just things like that. So my third year, it was more in situ analysis, and also I started getting into ex situ analysis. Ex situ essentially means that once the part is done printing, you take it out and then you do an analysis, like to see maybe the porosities, to see the microstructure. So that's what I was doing, like SEM and TEM of the already fabricated parts. So that was what I spent my third year doing for the most part. So in situ and also ex situ analysis. I don't think I did much of design. Oh, and also like towards the end of my third, that was just last year. So it seems like a long time, but last year we went to a government facility, synchrotron what's the name of this? Yeah, a synchrotron X-ray facility. I don't know, I'm blanking on the name, in Illinois. So we went to use their X-rays to be able to see through the substrates that we have, to see the melt pool and to see the melt pool progression and how it grew and how it became, like, there are lots of analysis that go into it. So I'm giving like a high level explanation of what my PhD entails. So I'll say like PhD for me, or rather additive manufacturing, is not just about like building fancy things. You have to ensure that what you're building works, and not that it just works, but it also gives the desired mechanical, electrical, microstructural properties that the final users are desire to see. So I think one very fascinating part of my PhD program is actually the course I took a course last semester. That was fall of 2024, sorry, and it was engineering entrepreneurship. So in that course, one of the projects the main project was actually like a market research or market validation of your research question. So I decided to just use my research topic, my current research topic, to more or less validate, like, is this thing we're working on, is it actually viable? Is it something that will be used maybe long term or short term, things like that. So I was reaching out to people in the aerospace industry, going back to aerospace again, to like ask to take interviews. I reached out to people in defense, reached out to people in like additive manufacturing, like just talking to different people, talking to like potential collaborators, potential competitors. Yeah, so that's what I did last semester. So it was very insightful a project, to be honest. So this year so far, I have been working on upgrading the system, making it more automated. So that, because initially it was very manual. It was a very manual system that we were using. So now I am, and I'm almost done upgrading it to be more automatic, so that it more or less mimics a commercial 3D printer, which thankfully has things are working out well now. You know, again, with hardware things, something will get broken, you have to replace it. Something will fail, you have to replace it. You made a mistake somewhere, you have to change a part, and things like that. So, but now, the system is today Saturday. I'm looking at my watch, because when I get back, so I was out of the lab for 2 days, Thursday and Friday, because of this conference I had to attend. So, but I'm going back on Monday. So by Monday, hopefully I'll finalize the whole system. I'll be able to test it and to see that it works, so that it can be back online and people can use it, because we have other people using it, using this my system, my little baby of a system, to do their own research work. So that's like my whole thing with PhD, with my PhD program. And I don't know if there is, let me see, I think I was writing down some points. I want to be able to see that I've gone through most of my points. Yeah, so for me, building this part is not just about I built the part, I built the system I built a system that works, but it's about I built a system that I'm able to control a lot of variables, because if you understand LPBF, there are lots of variables that go into it. So there are lots of things that could go wrong. There are lots of things that could influence a print. So having this system is that, okay, I understand the system. Like the system, I understand it inside out. So I know when something can go wrong with it. So I'm able to, there are a lot of things that are now within my control, that if something goes wrong, I'm able to say, oh, I know what went wrong, rather than having a commercial system where things go wrong, you don't know what's going on back end. And yeah, so, but it's just, it's a very dear project to me, because this is probably, I want to say, my first big project that I worked on, almost not single-handedly, because I had help, but I worked on, and it worked. I don't know why I'm laughing. It's a system that works. It's not something that you built and then it just looks good on paper, or looks good in person, but it's actually a system that works and people are actually using it. Yeah, so I think that's about it about my research. I do have a paper actually 2 papers under review. I have 2 more papers to write, maybe this year into next year. And yeah, I'm really hoping that this year I'm able to publish at least one, hopefully both, of the papers I have already written. And hopefully maybe by the end of this year or next year, have other papers published or completed. Yeah, so that's like the whole thing about my that's the whole thing about my research. I just wanted like a different video to talk about like my research work and my PhD and everything, so that I don't have to keep saying, oh, I'm a PhD student, and it's like what exactly do you do? So that's I can't tell you about like my day to day, like what I do every day, because every day is different. One day you can be doing like an SEM analysis for the whole day. Another day you could be doing like debugging of something going wrong with the system for the whole day. So every day is different, and I can't do a day in the life of a PhD student, unfortunately, because there's some things that are still intellectual property, so I can't like put it out there in the world except I get permission to do so. So, but yeah, that's it. It's been so far. It's been interesting, ups and downs, and things going wrong. Analysis not looking clear, results looking somehow, and yeah. So it does keep like reiterating, doing trial and error, moving forward with the research, and hoping things work out well. So that's essentially what research is: understanding of a particular subject area and trying to find out new body of knowledge. So if you are interested in a PhD program or in a PhD, or you have questions, you can let me know. If you have questions about like my research, you can let me know specific questions. I unfortunately cannot give out a lot of details if I'm not either privy to the information or I'm not privy to share that information. So, but I think I'm safe with what I've said now. So yeah. So till the next video. Bye.